I don't know if I've ever in my life seen Republican politicians turn on law enforcement. They're almost always just, dick riding the police, no matter what. They can't help it. It's part of their political identity. It's part of their strategy, back to blue or thin blue line stuff. Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, fully turned on the Uvalde police, given all of the new reports that have come out about how they basically let this mass shooting happen and didn't treat it with the urgency that they were supposed to, and didn't even follow their own procedure and their own processes. So let's listen to what he says here.
If you don't have any questions, that's fine. But if there's anybody here,
officers had acted with amazing courage. Today we learned that 19 officers stood in the hallway of that school for nearly an hour. Children, which goes against the way they've been trained.
Sure.
Clearly stated.
I'm going to be answering.
Okay, it's actually worse than that. They set up a perimeter around the school, and they actively held back parents of the kids from rushing in to try to stop the shooter. They even arrested one of them. They even, I think, tased one of them. They were more concerned with crowd control of angry parents than they were about stopping the mass shooter who was inside a classroom killing babies. The kids inside the classroom, a number of them, called 911 repeatedly and said, "Send the cops, help us, we got people who are alive here." They sat there and did nothing as they were getting those 911 calls. They did nothing. They said, "Oh, we have to wait for, the SWAT team." But the cops who were already there were decked out in tactical gear. So why would you even wait for the SWAT team? Get in there. Again, their own processes, their own procedures say we gotta go do this ASAP. Engage immediately. They didn't do it. There were even some reports that some of the cops took their own kids out of other classrooms and just let this kid, and they lied and said, "Oh, we've barricaded him in a room." You barricaded him. He barricaded himself. And by the way, he's murdering kids right now and you're not doing anything to stop it. It took a Customs and Border Patrol agent to say, "Oh, I'm going to go in there, have somebody unlock the door, and then I'm going to take this kid out." The cop sat there and did nothing. And then lied about it. They came up with 3 or 4 or 5 different timelines every time they talked to the media. And then one of them came out and admitted at one point, yeah, they didn't go in because they were afraid they would get shot. They didn't want to die. Well then, go pick another line of work, Dippy. You signed up for this shit. You signed up to be a cop. So the media is asking him a tough question. Let's see what he does.
Did you know these facts at the time, or were you trying to create a favorable narrative?
No, I'm going to fully answer it, because that's what he asked, and I told him I'm going to answer his question first.
I think that's what people in this community are most interested about.
Is there anybody here who has any question about the benefits that are being provided to anybody here who's suffered because of this crime?
There are no hands going up. I think it's time to answer that question, Governor.
So let me answer your question. So your question. No, I remember it. Short answer, yes, I was misled. I am livid about what happened. I was on this very stage 2 days ago, and I was telling the public information that had been told to me in a room just a few yards behind where we're located right now. I wrote down hand notes in detail about what everybody in that room told me in sequential order about what happened. And when I came out here on this stage and told the public what happened, it was a recitation of what people in that room told me, whether it be law enforcement officials or non-law enforcement officials, whatever the case may be. And as everybody has learned, the information that I was given turned out in part to be inaccurate. And I'm absolutely livid about that. And here's my expectation. My expectation is that the law enforcement leaders that are leading the investigations, which includes the Texas Rangers and the FBI, they get to the bottom of every fact with absolute certainty. There are people who deserve answers the most, and those are the families whose lives have been destroyed. They need answers that are accurate, and it is inexcusable that they may have suffered from any inaccurate information whatsoever. And it is imperative that the leaders of the investigations about exactly what happened get down to the very second of exactly what happened with 100% accuracy and explain it to the public, but most importantly, to the victims who've been devastated.
All right, so there you go. Every single law enforcement official who was leading that day, was in charge that day, and every single one who sat there and did nothing as the shooting was ongoing and they were getting 911 calls from kids inside, every single one of them should be fired. Now, not only should they be fired, I clean out nearly that entire department. There also should be charges brought against them. I think what they did is so egregious and so beyond the pale that they should be behind bars. Now, I admit I have no idea what they could even really be charged with. You know, I mean, maybe some form of negligence, I guess. But they should find a way to charge them and lock them up. And without a doubt, they should already, all of them, be fired. Because what they did was totally inexcusable. And look, I think it's fair to say, you can grab a random group of people in this country, tell them there's an active shooter situation going on inside of an elementary school. Here's a gun. You want to try to go stop it? I think most Americans would. I think they would risk their lives with no training whatsoever to try to stop the mass shooter. But the police, whose job it is to do that, did not do that. They sat around like cowards and then lied and lied again and lied again to cover their own asses. Beyond pathetic, totally inexcusable, totally immoral and unethical. Axe them, fire them all, and hopefully they can find a way to charge them. There's not a single person who I've talked to about this who doesn't have the exact same opinion as me. Everybody who I've talked to about this says the same thing. It's beyond outrageous that they did what they did. And then they had the nerve to lie and lie and lie and cover it up and act like they did nothing wrong. No. If even the Texas Republican governor is flipping on you and you're law enforcement, you're donezo, son. Because that means you have a coalition, a cross-ideological coalition that is stronger than maybe on any issue ever. So, I don't even know what we're waiting for. Fire them now. Find a way to charge them. That department needs to be cleaned out from top to bottom. Because clearly they have a whole bunch of cowards there. And, you know, hate to say it, but it makes sense. Maybe this is the logical conclusion, the logical end result of telling police for years and years and years that they're special, that we basically, you know, worship them. We do veteran worship in this country and we do cop worship in this country. And so maybe they started to really feel like, no, we're special. And so, you know, my life is so precious, I don't want to risk it even a little bit, even to save elementary school kids in the midst of a mass shooting from a psychopath. Unacceptable. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.